Things have changed since I was a boy. All you see out here in Nebraska now is shining new machines. Machines for riding, machines for fixing up the roads that machines need for riding, machines for hauling, machines for farming. Some of the farmers even got flying machines now. Sure has changed our way of living here in Nebraska. Speaking of hauling, see that there lumber? You know where that's coming from? Ah, you'd never believe me if I told you that that's a church they're hauling on them trucks. But that's just what it is. That's a real story, all right, about old Zion's Lutheran Church. Let me bring you up to date. Today, there's a spanking new church sitting in Belleville, just across the border into Kansas. Lots of people worship God there. People who probably wouldn't be going to church nowheres if it weren't for old Zion's. You see, it all started out here in the country near Deshler. It's wide open country out here, but it's real farmland. A lot of people like me come from the old country and settled on farms around Deshler. We didn't have all them newfangled machines, but the old horses plugged away and didn't burn no gas nor oil either. Of course, as time passed on, a few of the town people got them fancy new automobiles. They even drove them to church. But most of us country folks still used our horses and buggies. Old Zion's was important to us, though. It was the center of our life for a long time. Our young'uns was brung up to be clean living, hard-working, God-fearing people. Old Zion's played a real part in their training, too. But now that we're halfway through this 20th century, things has changed. Kids today go to big consolidated schools in the towns instead of the little one-room buildings we had when we was kids. And lots of the young folks want to go to college yet. We've sent quite a few up to Wartburg, our church college in Waverly, Iowa. Nope, reading and writing ain't enough no more. They gotta know how to figure and calculate and typewrite and all kind of stuff to do in the city. And I reckon it's a good thing, too. Trouble is, farm boys get offers to go to town and work in offices, factories, garages, just about anything. And so many of them has been moving off the farm that the towns is growing and the country is losing. When the young folks get married now, they mostly move to homes in the towns or cities. I reckon they served their purpose and deserve a rest. But it sure leaves an aching feeling in my heart to see these old pioneer places let alone like this. It had to come, I guess. Even old Zion's church was closed up. People figured they could drive to town for church. Most folks agreed that our way of living is changing. The old-timers made their contribution. Now they'd want us to look toward the future, not so much reflecting on the past. Ach, there was still people in the country, lots of them. But farms was getting more acreage, implements was more mechanized, transportation was much quicker. So, some men in the Brotherhood of American Lutheran Churches in southern Nebraska got the idea of transplanting old Zion's into a town somewheres. They talked up the idea, and everyone agreed Let's build a new church in Belleville. I recollect the day we started that job. April 10th, 1951 'twas. After a couple of pastors read scripture and prayed, 24 men from Bruning went to work. You know, one of them pastors was the spirit behind this whole project. Reverend C.E. Schaff is on the district mission committee, and he done most of the spade work. Men from Bruning worked the first day, but they didn't get to do it all. No, sir. 16 congregations sent enough men to work 988 man-hours before the old church was completely tore down. Them supervisors did a right smart job with all them workmen. Men like August Hoops, Otto Schleifer, Albert Heitmann, Fred Kirchhoff, and Hermann Schmidt knew what they was a-doing and how to do it. The participating churches are mostly from here in Thayer County, but some in nearby counties too. There was all 3 American Lutheran congregations at Byron, 2 at Deshler, in addition to Jansen, Gilead, Hebron, Bruning, Carlton, Hubble, Stoddard, Superior, Clay Center, Glenville, and Dakin. As the church began to lose its outer dressing, the brotherhoods became more and more enthusiastic with the whole idea. There was a young mission down across the border in Kansas. They needed a church of their own. Here was one nobody needed no more. It was just natural for us to support the district mission committee and deliver our old church to it. The old parsonage had been sold and moved off the property several years before. The foundation still shows there in the ground beside the church. I recollect that when we built this church back in 1910, one of the old-timers said to us young whippersnappers, "This here tower we're putting up will stand for years and years. Both the steeple and the church on it will keep reminding us of the higher things in life, that our life is worthless unless the cross of Christ rules in our hearts." He was right, too. But what he didn't say was that even after the tower came toppling down, the cross of Christ is just as powerful in the lives of men. Maybe more so, since this church was being torn down by good Christians who wanted to build a better and a more effective house of God. It was easy to see that these fellas was having a good time while they worked. By the time the old church was almost finished, the plans for the new Belleville chapel was approved. Donald Hollis had proved himself a good church architect, and the mission committee knew what they was a-doing when they hired him. He had estimated what lumber could be used from old Zions and advised the committee to sell what couldn't be used in the new church. Over $700 came in from a sale soon after the tearing down was done. Yeah, you guessed it. The proceeds went to the Belleville Church Building Fund. Remember that load of lumber I showed you a while back? Well, I'm catching up with my story now. Do you know that on June 8, 1951, just 2 months after we started dismembering the old church, we had 5 trucks loaded down with good, usable lumber. That's the day we hauled it all to Belleville. Came the big day of groundbreaking for the young church in Belleville. Mighty nice of the Episcopal people, letting them use their church for the past year or so. This was a real congregation, even before they had their own church. Why, they had a Sunday school, a ladies' society, and a brotherhood already organized, and they was an active bunch too. This little outfit had really caught the mission spirit, just like the rest of us who helped in this project. Pastor A.A. Krause of Byron had organized the mission, and he took charge of the groundbreaking ceremonies. He was assisted by young Marvin Ritterling. Lots of folks was on hand there on the corner of Main and 23rd that Sunday morning in July. They was all happy because a new Lutheran church was going to be built in Belleville, the seat of Republic County. They know that the Central District Mission Committee was continuing their plan to place Lutheran churches in Kansas county seats. And then that lumber was put to use. Construction was begun that same fall, but had to be stopped for a while during the winter snowfalls, then was picked up again in the springtime. Frank Bogenkamp, a young feller of 78, was the general contractor. He agreed to take $1 an hour for his services, but he was worth a heap more than that, I can tell you. You're probably wondering where this new mission got the money it needed to finish the new church. Their lumber bill was sure cut down by the gift of planks and boards from old Zion's building. But it still takes money, and lots of it to finish and furnish a new church. This wasn't no package mission, and it didn't get no funds from the American Lutheran Church. It was a plain case of what we like to call mothering a mission. All of us who helped tear down the old church was willing to pitch in and help with the new one too. Them fellers from Bruning, for instance, delivered all that lumber free for nothing. Bruning Electric wired the new building and took pay only for the fixtures. A kind-hearted brother came all the way down from Clay Center to lay the cement blocks without cost. Another friend, way over in Smith Center, made and donated the pulpit and lectern. The good ladies of the area gave the new chancel carpet. The district mission fund provided for 60 new chairs, and it would take too long to list how many men gave hours and hours to building, painting, and finishing. Why, even the women did what they could to help out and get the church ready for dedication day. But of course, there was still need for cash. All of us who had a little money to invest in a good security purchased $100 notes until there was $10,000 in the kitty. Naturally, some of the good people weren't going to lend any money, but they would be only too glad to give some cash as a way of thanking the Lord for their own blessings. Do you know how hot Kansas can get in July? Well, partner, it was a barn burner the day they picked for dedication in July of 1952. 107 degrees 'twas. But nevertheless, and notwithstanding, there was a crowd of 300 to 400 people who participated in the festivities that day. They didn't mind the heat too much, for this was the finish of a long and joyful project. They were there to praise the Lord and thank Him for His goodness in providing their church. Naturally, the Belleville people was happy on this day. They thanked us Nebraskans for helping out and did everything possible to make us feel welcome. But you know, me and some of the boys was talking, and we all figured that we got more out of this business than the Belleville folks did. Sure, they got a church for next to no cash on the barrelhead. But we got the satisfaction of putting our hands and hearts to work for the Lord. Most of us had never done nothing for the church, except giving money when we come to meeting on Sunday morning. But now we can say that God really used us in the building up of His kingdom. Our district president, Dr. E.G. Fritchell of Denver, was there with his friendly smile and handshake. He preached the sermon that afternoon, and it was a good one, too. Pastor Krause read the dedicating service. Our work in Belleville was done, but the work of the young American Lutheran Church in Belleville is just beginning. It has a great future ahead of it, and I know that all the other folks in the Central District agree with me that it was well worth all the time and effort and money we put into it. Mothering a mission is a big job, but it's one of the best ways of getting new churches started where they ought to be started. And I think it's a real shot in the arm for us older congregations. I still say we got the most out of the deal. We know now that Christ works through us, and we're all the more willing to let Him do it. Here's one transplanted church that is really taken root